Now on that breaking news out of London, where Prince William has responded to a bombshell inquiry slamming the BBC for that infamous interview with Princess Diana. Have a look.
The interview was a major contribution to making my parents' relationship worse and has since hurt countless others. It brings indescribable sadness to know that the BBC's failures contributed significantly to her fear, paranoia and isolation that I remember from those final years with her.
The fact that the statement just dropped and now he has now recorded that message as well speaks to the anger there. Royal commentator Camilla Tominey joins us now from London. Camilla, you've been doing this for such a long time. We have never seen anything like this from the young princes, certainly not William especially. What do you think about this straight up?
Well, David, I think it's hugely significant that he's decided to do that statement in person and release it via Kensington Palace. As you've just highlighted there, the language in this is really punchy. It's talking about Lord Dyson's findings, finding the fact that there were lies, there were fake documents used to obtain that interview. But then some of the language he's using about the impact on his mother, talking about the indescribable sadness to know that these BBC failures contributed to her fear, paranoia and isolation. He also says in the statement, David, that he doesn't think that interview should ever be aired again. He's effectively saying that it was obtained under false pretenses. It caused abject misery not only to his mother but also his father and made their relationship worse. I mean, really, he couldn't be more strongly worded. And it's not just that he is blaming Martin Bashir, the so-called rogue reporter in this. He's also blaming the BBC leadership for turning a blind eye, saying that if these matters had been investigated in 1995, then Princess Diana would have known she had been deceived while she was still alive. Of course, she went to her grave not knowing any of this had been sought in such a deceptive manner.
I mean, it's extraordinary. He does say later on in this, and he doesn't mince his words, our mother lost her life because of this, and nothing has changed. Prince Harry has also responded saying, our mother lost her life because of this and nothing's changed. I mean, look, this is really amazing stuff here. So now we have the princes both coming out saying this. They're both damning the BBC here, damning the people in charge. They preyed on a vulnerable woman who happened to be Princess Diana. I don't know what the fallout for this is going to be, but it's going to be massive.
Well, I think as well that there is a perfectly legitimate theory that this interview set in pattern a chain of events that did ultimately lead to her demise. You know, after this interview was aired, you then have the Queen making a demand of both Prince Charles and Princess Diana that they finally get divorced, having separated 4 years earlier. Diana then goes on to describe 1996, the year after the interview, as one of the worst in her life. She lost her HRH status. She then took the disastrous decision to dispense with her Metropolitan Police bodyguards. That then resulted in her also perhaps making some difficult relationship choices, which then meant that she ended up in Paris with Dodi Fayed. And we know the rest of this tragic history. Now, I see Harry there's made this statement directly linking the interview to his mother's death. I don't know if evidentially we can go that far, but what we can say is that this interview did mark a turning point in the late princess's life, and it caused her to make decisions that ultimately saw her in the Alma Tunnel that night on August the 31st, 1997.
Do you think, Camilla, we're going to hear from Prince Charles on this?
I'm not sure whether it's likely that we'll hear from Prince Charles, as the ex-husband. I think he's very much going to devolve responsibility for reacting to this to William and Harry. I don't know whether the brothers have discussed the statements in advance. Obviously, they're very similar in tone. And the next time we expect to see them, of course, is at the unveiling of a statue to their mother on what would have been her 60th birthday on July the 1st.
It is extraordinary revelations this morning. I'm not sure how we're going to talk about this for a lot longer, especially after those two statements from the young princes. Camilla, thank you for your insight this morning. Ali?
Yeah, very powerful there, wasn't it? Thank you, David.
Yes.
Perfect.
Now, more on the extraordinary response from Princes William and Harry this morning, taking aim at the BBC over its infamous panorama interview with their mother, Princess Diana. Take a listen to the Duke of Cambridge.
Me most is that if the BBC had properly investigated the complaints and concerns first raised in 1995, my mother would have known that she had been deceived. She was failed not just by a rogue reporter, but by leaders at the BBC who looked the other way rather than asking the tough questions.
Let's bring in royal editor at the Daily Mirror, Russell Miles. Russ, I'll tell you what, I don't think I've ever heard the brothers speak so scathingly.
Well, very much, Ali. I think it's absolutely devastating for the BBC. It's certainly not every day you get the future king standing outside Kensington Palace. And as you heard, they're not just rubbishing the work of a rogue reporter, but laying the blame squarely at the BBC chiefs who turned a blind eye to the deceit and the deception of Martin Bashir. It's absolutely an extraordinary turn of events today.
I mean, the young Prince William there even hinted that maybe it affected his own relationship with his mother.
Oh, definitely. I think, he's talking about his immense sadness at the last years he had with his mother. He's talking about how she was plagued with fear and isolation, how Bashir basically played on her paranoia. And then talking about how it affected his parents' relationship. Of course, they were already separated, but after the interview that the Queen ordered the divorce, and the rest is history. Diana descended into an absolutely downward spiral that eventually led to her very, very tragic death a couple of years later.
I mean, he talks about how this contributed significantly to her fear, paranoia and isolation. And he says that I remember from those final years with her. You then look at this statement that Prince Harry has released. There is so much anger behind the boys' words in both of their responses. Would you agree?
I would absolutely agree. I think that it's unprecedented the tone that they've taken. Harry's talking about the ripple effect of unethical practices, which ultimately led to her life ending. And this is absolutely extraordinary event. More than 23 years later, we're only now discovering the truth. And it's actually because there was investigative journalists and Earl Spencer, Diana's brother, pushed for this independent inquiry. There was a lot of controversy about whether it would have the teeth to actually get to the real nub of the problem. And I think that Lord Dyson's report today has been absolutely explosive. And you're seeing it absolutely play out in front of us with the boys' words. And they're certainly very, very angry and very, very hurt. And I felt that watching William make his statement was just particularly sad. I mean, he's talking about his own sadness, and certainly that they will be very, very united in that grief, I'm sure.
Russ, how damaging is this going to be to the BBC and its brand, and also to its relationship with the royals moving forward?
Well, I mean, that's the big question, isn't it? Because William has spoken about that the Panorama programme has no legitimacy anymore. Whether the BBC will continue to air its flagship programme remains to be seen. However, these are very, very strong words from the Duke, and certainly that the BBC has been rushing out a raft of apologies today, letters going to the Queen, Charles, William and Harry. But I think it's a sticking plaster over a bomb site at the moment, and I think it will leave an indelible stain along the corporation, without a doubt.
Yeah, and I think for the boys, an apology that comes way too late, unfortunately. I think it took us all by surprise just how strong these statements were today. Russ, always good to talk to you. I'm sure there'll be plenty more to digest over the weekend. Yeah.